Are you ready for a Monday edition Orange and Blue today? You either win or you learn, and when you learn, you win. So, what did Broncos head coach Sean Payton learn about his team during the bye? Going to talk about it today on this program. That's right, Orange and Blue today. Mason is on assignment. Hi, Salami. I'm rolling solo, talking about the Denver Broncos and getting ready for a very winnable game against the Buffalo Bills, who aren't even in the postseason race now. Like I wrote about it in Mile High Monday. Make sure to check that out at denversports.com. Yeah, if you're Buffalo, what in the hell are you doing? Okay. That's how it's going to work for that team. And that means the Denver Broncos, you've got an opportunity to go out there and perhaps get a win and make it 3 in a row. Can they do it? Could they go 3 in a row against Buffalo? Monday night, primetime audience on the road? The answer is yeah. The answer is yes. Part of it is on the Denver Broncos and their improvements. Part of it is on the Buffalo Bills and their lack of improvements and their lack of commitment to the ground game. Like everything that Denver figured out, and I say this as a warning, but also to someone that I respect dearly in Sean McDermott. Like, you got to run, man. Like, if you don't figure out that Josh Allen can't do everything and play hero ball, then you're going to get fired. That's how it's going to be in the National Football League. It's called Not For Long for a reason. So the Denver Broncos can win against the Buffalo Bills. And who would have thought that merely 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever number you want to put it at, whatever disappointing loss, let's say the Thursday night loss to Kansas City. Oh man, it was close. Okay. There were some things to take away from that, certainly. Things that at the time I would say, perhaps I didn't give enough credence to, because I feel in that Thursday night game, the Chiefs were playing Charlie mess around with the Broncos, going for it on fourth down, running these ridiculous hook and ladder type of plays. Like they were kind of messing with Denver. But at the same time, it's clear and obvious now with 2 more weeks and 2 more wins that the Broncos are learning as the season is going on. And as I started off today's program, you either win or you learn. And when you learn, you win. So you're always winning. And if you're Sean Payton, you've had a lot to learn. I could go over and question the why, we should have been seeing this iteration of the Denver Broncos from week 1. It's something, and listen, preseason predictions are wild to be sure. But in the preseason, I was saying like they're going to run the ball and they're going to win ugly. So get ready, Broncos country. And then they lost the first 2 and you're like, oh, okay, this is how it's going to be. Like they should have been doing what they've been doing over the past 2 games from week 1. So the why is in why did Sean Payton not do this sooner? He's probably just wanting to learn more about his team, probably wanting to see more of what his quarterback can do. And oh my God, if you ever want to draw the ire of Broncos country, or some, I should say, because I think the Russell Wilson narrative is incorrect on many parts. And I think almost all of us are wrong about it because there is a sentiment of people out there that say Russell Wilson sucks. And no matter what he does, he sucks. And the Seahawks pulled the wool over the eyes of George Payton or whatever. And that's not the case. Some people on the other side, and based off last week's YouTube comments, which again, YouTube comments are, you think Twitter's bad? Venture into the realm of the YouTube algorithm and overlords, and you'll see some pretty negative stuff as well, which is fine. I've got broad shoulders, but if you promote an opinion that is like, hey, I don't think Sean Payton trusts Russell Wilson, you meet a backlash of like, they're just getting it right and they're just figuring it out and it takes time and he's in his 3rd offense in 3 years. Something that Sean Payton actually brought up today at his Zoom press conference. For me, it's not they're figuring it out and it's going to get better from here on out. I think Sean Payton has figured out what Russell Wilson is, and Russell Wilson can play good football. It's not necessarily for Sean Payton. And don't give me the numbers, give me the film, okay? Because numbers are going to lie. And if this isn't anything that's obvious of that, then I don't know what is. But put on the film, look at what your coach isn't doing and what he's known for doing, and that he's completely not doing now. Why is that? Because Russell Wilson can't run what he wants him to run. It doesn't mean Russ sucks. It doesn't mean that I'm negative or the Broncos will never get it right or whatever. Like, no, they're learning. And I think Coach Payton learned and started out by giving his veteran the benefit of the doubt. You know, if I go back into why haven't this team, why can't I speak English? Why hasn't this team been running all the time from day one? I can't answer that question. I'm glad it's here. Your best bet to win is running the ball. Part of that might be the Javonte injury, and just remarkable recovery, true Wolverine's blood for Javonte Williams. And part of that might have been, trusting him, such a large workload immediately. My counter to that is always Samaje Perine's not a slappy. Samaje Perine's not the greatest thing ever, but he's also not terrible as a veteran. He could start for a lot of teams out there. And here he doesn't barely even touch the ball. So if you're worried about Javonte, why didn't you just use more Samaje? I'd also introduce Jaleel McLaughlin into the conversation. Only 7 minutes in to today's program. But yeah, I would say your ground game should have been leading the way. It would have helped out your defense earlier. You still would have got waxed by Miami, but Miami's got their own problems. They're 0-3 against teams that are above 500. So if you're the Miami Dolphins, yeah, everybody loves Mike McDaniel, and Tua's a great story, and Tyreek's super, super fast. But if you can't beat Kansas City, if you can't beat the teams that are above 500, you've got no shot. So, you can be the talk of the talk and everybody's sexy pick during the regular season. We are in November now, and the seasons change, right? And the NFL regular season changes in about a month. After Thanksgiving, you will see the weather turn, and you will see teams turn to more of a ground-based attack. Prepare your troops for a surface attack. That's what you have to do every single week in the National Football League. The Broncos have started it a couple of weeks ago because, again, they're limiting what their quarterback can do, but they're winning. So the answer at the end of the day is winning. And I want you to listen to Sean Payton's answer. It's about a minute long here, and collected and gathered by one Andrew Mason. Mason on assignment today. He'll be back on the show tomorrow. We'll actually be out at Broncos tomorrow. They have availability, not open locker room, which is interesting. They'll have open locker room on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I believe. And I will be missing Saturday's practice, but I digress. Preparing for Monday night, preparing for Buffalo. We will be out at Broncos tomorrow. Both Mason and I will be talking to Coach. We'll be at the podium for whatever players they bring up. We'll be, rushing back to do the show and to get it prepared for you right here. Orange and Blue today, denversports.com. So, this Sean Payton answer tells you a lot. Now, you might have to read between the lines a little bit, but that's kind of Sean Payton answers in a nutshell, right? I want you to really listen to what Sean Payton says about what he's learned about Russell Wilson so far, and I'll talk about it on the other side.
Yeah, I think those numbers are all good, and I think the most important thing is how we're playing as a team and how we're playing as an offense. The number one job is to get us in the end zone, and I think the things that we've seen I've been encouraged with are obviously the off-schedule plays. He does a great job of working the pocket, climbing the pocket. He makes a real good throw to Judy last week, doing that. Cortland the same way. And then continuing to look at reducing the turnovers, managing the game the right way, and understanding who we're playing and how we're playing it. All of those things, that transition for him so far, he's in his third offense now in 3 years, and every day working at it, working his tail off at it. So I would say, to answer your question, I'd say that, man, there's a lot of things that we've been impressed with that he's doing very well, and there's some things that obviously he wants to improve on, and collectively we want to offensively.
So there's Sean Payton talking about Russell Wilson, and one of the most important things that I took away from that minute clip is when he said Russ is figuring out who we're playing and how we're playing him. And that transition has, matured over the course of the season. But I really want to chop that up because it's who you're playing, all right, the opponent, how are you going to attack them, but how you're playing them and how they're playing them going forward is limiting Russell Wilson. And I'm fine with that. Again, it doesn't mean Russ sucks because he doesn't. It just means he can't really run what Sean Payton wants to run, which is sell concepts. You say it with me. I've said it a million times. Like, you just don't see these sort of sets, and it's not due to lack of talent. It's not due to the offensive line. Can the offensive line conversation calm down a little bit? And I understand, like, offensive line play. I constantly consult any sort of offensive lineman that I know. Name anybody that's currently with the Fan or formerly with the Fan. Like, name any offensive lineman. I'll name Mark Schlereth because he's my mentor. Like, I constantly consult Stink on what I'm seeing with offensive line play, because even someone like me who studied this game professionally for 20 years, like, okay, am I seeing what I'm seeing here? And if I want to bring up Pro Football Focus, they don't know the assignments. I know, but you're also talking about former pros and even one future head coach that either did work for Pro Football Focus or currently do work for Pro Football Focus. You don't know the assignment, but you know ball, and you know who's not playing well. The Broncos currently are one of 4 teams that have a top 10 graded run blocking offensive line and a top 10 graded pass blocking offensive line. As difficult as that may be for people to believe, again, I want this film to lead the way, not necessarily the stats. And you heard Sean Payton talk about that as well. And I think for years, the easy answer has been the offensive line sucks. Russ is running for his life. The offensive line sucks. Insert Broncos quarterback X is terrible because the Broncos offensive line sucks. And for a large portion of this recent history, that has been true. That's not true any longer. And I'm not saying they're the greatest ever. They have their shortcomings. Certainly, Mike McGlinchey needs to be much, much better. He's not this bad, everybody. I think he's hurt. We won't know until the end of the season. But that's just me guessing. Again, no inside information. Definitely no Lassie barks on that one. Just something that I've seen across the board in the NFL, regardless of position. Like, why doesn't that guy look good anymore? Oh, because he's constantly banged up. Okay, that makes more sense. I'll give you an example that's non-Broncos. Jalen Waddle right now with the Dolphins doesn't look quite right because he's not. And he's been battling multiple injuries this year. He's out there, he's playing. And that's kind of the double-edged sword in the NFL. Like, if you don't play, you're 100%er. Oh, guy's got to be 100% to be right. And if you do play and you don't look as good, you're like, well, that guy sucks. No, again, that's not the case. This is a much more nuanced conversation. But I look at the offensive line playing solid football. Even Lloyd Cushenberry has gotten better. Lloyd was number 5. He was the number 1 problem on the offensive line this year at the beginning of the season, number 1 by a mile. And that's even with McGlinchey getting all the penalties and all that type of stuff. Like, number 1 problem was Lloyd Cushenberry. He's been better. Ben Powers has been outstanding. Garrett Bowles I've praised this year. Quinn Miners, a young player on the come up, right? So you have some good offensive linemen who are putting together solid performances. Again, not perfect, but solid performances. You have a quarterback that holds on to the ball too long. Sean Payton had to learn that. So now, in efforts to get the ball out of his hands, there were only 5 passes out of 19 that traveled past the line of scrimmage in the game in the win over the Chiefs. And I'm okay with that because it results in a win. That's the whole point of this damn thing. Like, yeah, this ain't fantasy football. To quote Nick Saban when he was head coach of the Dolphins, like, this ain't fantasy football. I don't care about Russell Wilson's numbers if the film doesn't back it up. The film says, okay, they're hiding him. And that's difficult for some to believe, which is fine. Again, And it doesn't mean Russ is terrible. I hate that I have to couch stuff like this. You know what I mean? I wish that we could all just have honest conversations about a lot of things. But having to couch this type of stuff and be like, it doesn't, I'm telling you, Russ doesn't suck, but they're limiting him. They're kind of hiding him within the offense, everybody. And that's just the truth. And yeah, I'll blame the NFL because the NFL is cozied up to outlets that do nothing but blow bubbles at them all day long. The NFL loves that. It's a propaganda outlet, basically. Like the NFL loves when nobody says anything bad about them. It just, hey, everybody, everything's great. Russell Wilson and Sean Payton, they're figuring it out. It's the greatest thing ever. Like, no, I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone next year. I wouldn't be surprised if he reworks his contract so they're able to, bring in a young quarterback to groom behind him, to kind of develop behind Wilson. The future is the future. Right now, I'm focused on Buffalo. I'm focused on what have we learned about this Broncos team up to this point. Well, what we've learned is pass rush is damn good. I'll get more on those guys in a little bit. But offensively, what we've learned is the ground game should lead the way. No kidding. As some would say. Like, yeah, the Javonte Williams needs to get maybe not 37 touches or whatever, but it's like, okay, if he can get 20 carries, you can get Jaleel 7 carries. The problem with Jaleel McLaughlin, again, just real talk. I understand some don't like real talk and everybody's the greatest ever. But as someone who really, really appreciates Jaleel McLaughlin, and I think he's a very good young man, like outstanding person, heart. Jaleel McLaughlin has incredible heart. The problem with him on the field becomes not only is he not a pile pusher, I've said he's Philip Lindsay with hands. And by the way, players that have been banged up that played through it, Philip Lindsay with that wrist injury that you never really heard about. Why did he stab at the football like it was a fork and he was stabbing a Thanksgiving turkey with his hands? Because his wrist was messed up. I mean, Phil, and to his credit, because I'm the one that kept saying when he was playing for the Broncos, like, Philip Lindsay can't catch. It wasn't the fact that he couldn't catch. He caught plenty at CU. It was his mechanics were off because his wrist was messed up. So, again, this is a much more nuanced conversation. Philip Lindsay, when he'd get contact, would mostly fall forward. He was not a pile pusher, but he would mostly fall forward or fight. I mean, Philip Lindsay always fights. That's kind of the nature of his persona. The problem with Jaleel, and that we've seen a few times now, is that when he takes contact, it's not like, man, what a big hit. And he took the contact and he kind of fell sideways or, knocked him out of bounds or whatever, came down immediately. Some guys, when they're arm tackled, they come down immediately. You don't necessarily see that with Jaleel, but if he takes a hit, he loses his feet. It's like, woo, like special effects, right? Well, what is it? The Wilhelm scream? Like, ah! Like, yeah, that's what you get with Jaleel. When he takes contact, it usually ends with him flying backwards. And that's the difference between him and Philip Lindsay. So now do we question why the team is limiting Jaleel McLaughlin? No. And it is a size thing. And we're seeing smaller players. Where's the Tank Dell, right? We're talking Houston Texans. I wrote about that in Mile High Monday, denversports.com. It's like, just get your guy. The Texans, everybody clowned them at the beginning of the draft this year. Not everybody, but there were some. CJ Stroud just set a rookie record for passing yards in a game, and they've got their guy. They've got their guy in head coach, D'Amico Ryans. They've got their guy in their quarterback, CJ Stroud. Just get your guy. It doesn't necessarily mean Caleb Williams or bust for the Broncos. And the Broncos are trying to win. And Sean Payton, at the end of this and heading into the bye, has identified the best way for this team to win is to rush the passer and try to rush with 4, not send blitzes. Sorry, Vance Joseph. And he's also learned run the hell out of the ball, and that plays into your defense. Again, this ain't fantasy football, but if you've ever played DFS, you understand that a run game and a defense are stacked together. Because if you're running the ball effectively, your defense is going to be very clear of mind. They're going to be fresher out there. So that's the way to attack it if you're the Denver Broncos. And speaking of attack, I mean, the biggest surprise wild turkey surprise, the biggest surprise. I randomly quote Looney Tunes in my life, so welcome to this world. Um, the biggest surprise in 2023 has been Nick Bonito. And this is a good thing, by the way. It's not, doesn't say anything bad about Nick Bonito. It just says his rookie season was real rough, real raw, and he still has to work as a run defender. But you don't draft Nick Bonito so you can like make sure you stuff the run, young man. You draft Nick Bonito so he can harass quarterbacks, and that's what he's doing on a weekly basis. Baron Browning looks incredible early on. The early returns of Baron Browning coming back from his injury kind of makes me feel bad. Like, if Baron Browning hadn't been hurt, would we have already been seeing this before? Yeah. Frank Clark, and I don't have a lot good to say about Frank Clark. You already all know the reason why. Randy Gregory, whatever, was a terrible signing because he's never played. I don't care about the weed thing. He's never played a full season. Randy Gregory that was a terrible signing. Another bad George Payton signing. Again, George Payton has an eye for talent. He's not a good GM because of some of these signings like that. So if Baron Browning had been healthy, would you have seen this immediately? Because we saw Nick Bonito coming on. Nick Bonito in May, I remember talking to Mace about this. I might have brought it up on the show. Like, man, he's running wild out there. And I said it as kind of a compliment and an insult, because Nick Bonito, he was playing outstanding in May. He didn't care about the run. Of course, it's practice and there's no live tackling. But I remember watching Bonito in May and like mini camp, and he would like get to the quarter, but he'd completely abandon the run. So if you just ran at him, it would be a gash play. So I remember joking around with Mace, like, man, he's playing like his hair's on fire. Like he's not paying attention to the run at all. As you saw mini camp and OTAs turn into training camp, that's where Nick Bonito started to play much, much better. And you're seeing the fruits of his labor out on the field, getting Baron Browning back, Jonathan Cooper. Where's the Keanu kiss for Jonathan Cooper? You want to talk about like perfection, right? Perfection from Jonathan Cooper, who is strong against the run, who is a guy that you can rely on no matter the down and distance. You don't have to worry about Jonathan Cooper. Just let him go play football. Having a healthy Justin Simmons has certainly helped. I know I did debate with Matt Smith on Friday morning, Schlereth and Evans, about Alex Singleton, because I think he had him as his midseason MVP. And I was like, oh, he misses too many tackles for me. And again, real talk, I talked to Alex and I share hair tips with each other. So I'm not going to talk bad about Alex Singleton, but I'm also not going to be blind to the fact that he misses a lot of tackles. He's a tackling machine. If you don't know Singleton's game, you don't know football. Okay. But you also have to admit gets himself out of position and he misses way too many tackles for being said tackling machine. So again, let's just be honest about this team. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong to seek the truth and speak the truth. And the truth isn't always meant to make you feel good. I think if you're a Broncos fan, you should feel good, knowing that it's still going to take more time, knowing that now with the loss to Cincinnati, there's a chance Buffalo comes out and trounces you. 35-10. Buffalo gets the big win, prime time, Monday Night Football. There's that possibility. I don't think that happens, though. Based on how we've seen the Broncos play and their change in philosophy and the fact that Russell Wilson is accepting his role. You're not going to get to play Russ ball and throw up the moon balls as much as you'd like. And as much as we want Marvin Mims, they're just not going to use him. Peyton was asked about that today. He's like, that's a really good question. Next, like, he didn't really answer it because he mostly doesn't. Sometimes, though, like that Wilson answer, he does give you some tidbits as to what's going on with his team. So now, looking forward, we can say, all right, continue to play great defense. I still don't believe Vance Joseph is going to make it into next year as their defensive coordinator. That's me. Could totally be wrong. Would be happy if I was wrong. As I've said before, I actually like Vance Joseph. I just don't think he's very good at his job. That's just me. Whatever. But when you're honest about this team, there are some concrete things to be excited about. Not just I'm a fan and I'm a fan whether they win or they lose. If that's you, God bless you. If that's not you, I totally understand. Like, part of being a fan isn't just like, it doesn't matter what they do. I love them. Yes, but part of being a fan is identifying and understanding what needs to change for the team to compete for a championship. Because that's what Broncos country you were all about. In the Pat Bowlen era, you were all about competing for championships. That nature is gone. It can come back. It can. Sean Payton might be the person to bring back that. I called it nature. I should call it culture. The culture of winning can return to the Denver Broncos. And sometimes that truth, because as I'm sitting here talking with y'all, and I appreciate you all, Andrew Mason, on assignment today. But as I talk to you all about this Denver Broncos team, know that Russell Wilson himself has had to absorb harsh truths. Seattle didn't want you, man. Seattle didn't want you anymore. And that's a harsh truth. And then the harsh truth of like, I can't really run what Sean Payton wants me to run. What can I do, coach? And we're kind of at that moment, shared moment, if you will, where it's like Sean Payton tried to do stuff. Russ can't do it. So he's like, okay, let's run the ball and let's limit you. Let's throw behind line of scrimmage. We're going to get the ball out quickly because it's nothing but screen passes. Okay, but you're getting the ball out quickly, right? And why is he doing that? Because Russ holds on to the ball too long. So having that sort of honest conversation with himself, and I'm sure Russell Wilson has. Russell Wilson is no dummy. He's not out there like, I'm the best, guys. Like, he's very positive, and I appreciate that as someone who tries to follow the line of positive thinking. It is very difficult sometimes. But like, I appreciate Russ for being a positive thinker. But at the end of the day, you have to be a realist. And I believe he is in terms of his fit with Sean Payton. So he's like, what do you want me to do, coach? You want me to throw 15 screens? Okay. You know, can I at least get a couple deep shots? That's what Russ wants to do. But Russ's game is built on chaos and extending the play. Sean Payton's offense is built on timing and precision. It's a bad fit. It's a bad fit, but it can work because Russ is just doing what his coach wants him to do. And the coach is simplifying things. So again, the honest truth about this Broncos team is you should be excited. You can go win 3 in a row. You can beat the Buffalo Bills. And you can play tough football on the road in a tough place to play where they're going to even go to work on Monday, Buffalo. They're going to start drinking about 9 a.m., right? Start breaking tables and lighting stuff on fire, probably about 9:30, okay? And then by the time game time rolls around, they're going to be on their, fifth wind. And speaking of fifth vodka, whatever, it's like Buffalo fans are going to be nuts, man. That's a tough place to play, but the Broncos can win there. And just rewind 2-3 weeks ago and how we looked at this schedule differently. And how we looked at this game against Buffalo differently. Oh, the Broncos got no chance. No, they've got a chance. They've got a good chance. They've got a real good chance. So now it's on them to go do it. I'm going to go do it. We'll see if they can. Again, Andrew Mason will be back tomorrow. We'll both be out at Broncos tomorrow. No open locker room, but they will have players at the podium. So we'll bring you all the information. We'll have practice observations. How does this team look? Are they going to be refreshed coming out of the bye? Mason and I will tell you. Want you to help out with the YouTube things. And sorry, I can't get to all y'all's comments. I appreciate you all. There's Tom. He said, let's go. And there's Edward. Edward, you're the dude, man. Appreciate you all. And yeah, Nate, they do have a chance against Buffalo. So help do the YouTube things. If you commented in the chat room, comment down below on the video. It helps the YouTube algorithm, gets us in front of more people to know about Orange Blue Today and DenverSports.com. And we just appreciate it, man. Let's go Broncos. Let's kick the crap out of Buffalo. Let's do this thing, man. Let's make it 3 in a row. Can they do it? Yeah. Will they do it? We're fixing to find out. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. I'm Cecil Lammy saying, appreciate you all. Be safe, be kind. Know that you're appreciated. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty?